Talking about your goals and ambitions feels good. It gives you a sense of progress, a momentary high, as if simply declaring your intentions is enough to set you on the path to success. But that feeling is deceptive. Words, in and of themselves, accomplish nothing. They don't move you forward. They don't build competence. They don't generate results. Action does. And the more time you spend talking, the less time you spend actually doing. This is one of the biggest traps people fall into. They convince themselves that discussing their plans is the same as executing them. They make promises, set grand ambitions, and announce their goals to the world, thinking that the external validation they receive will push them forward. But what often happens instead is that the praise, the encouragement, the recognition, they all create a false sense of achievement. The brain rewards words as if they were deeds, and before you know it, you've wasted your energy in conversation rather than in tangible progress. The truth is, action is the only thing that matters. If you want to get stronger, don't talk about working out. Go to the gym, lift the weights, push through the discomfort. If you want to become smarter, don't endlessly discuss your desire to read more books. Open one and start reading. If you want to be more disciplined, don't tell yourself you'll start tomorrow. Begin right now. The people who succeed, who truly make something of themselves, are those who prioritize movement over speech, results over rhetoric. Action forces you to face reality. It is unfiltered, raw, and honest. When you act, there's no room for illusions. You either succeed or you fail. And if you fail, you learn. But when you rely on words, you can manipulate perception. You can make yourself and others believe you're progressing when, in reality, you're stagnant. It's easier to tell people you're going to start a business than to actually build one. It's easier to complain about your situation than to change it. But easy does not lead to strength. Easy leads to mediocrity. There's also a psychological shift that occurs when you prioritize action. Every time you take real steps toward a goal, no matter how small, you build momentum. You prove to yourself that you are capable. And with each step, your confidence grows. Not the hollow confidence that comes from empty words, but the unshakable confidence that comes from experience. You become someone who does rather than someone who merely intends. And that shift over time transforms your entire life. One of the biggest advantages of focusing on action over words is that it eliminates the need for external validation. When you act, your results speak for you. You don't have to convince anyone of your worth because your competence becomes self-evident. This is what separates those who achieve from those who merely dream. The people who truly master a skill, who build real success, are too busy working to seek constant validation. They don't need to tell everyone about their ambitions because they're already in the process of making them a reality. Moreover, when you act, you develop resilience. Talking about difficulties does not prepare you to face them. Experience does. There is no substitute for doing the hard work. No amount of discussion can replicate the lessons learned through effort, failure, and persistence. Every time you take action, you strengthen yourself. And over time, you become someone who thrives under pressure rather than someone who folds when faced with adversity. Another crucial aspect of prioritizing action is that it teaches you patience. Real progress takes time. Success is not built overnight, and results do not appear instantly. But when you commit to consistent action, you begin to appreciate the long-term process. You stop expecting immediate gratification and instead focus on steady improvement. And this shift in mindset is what ultimately separates those who succeed from those who give up. So, if you find yourself constantly talking about what you want to do, take a step back. Ask yourself, are you actually making progress or are you just creating the illusion of it? Are your words backed by action or are they empty promises? The answer to these questions will determine the trajectory of your life. Stop announcing your plans. Stop waiting for the perfect moment. Stop relying on words to give you a sense of accomplishment. Start doing. Start failing. Start learning. Because in the end, action is the only thing that will ever move you forward. Silence is often misunderstood. Many people associate it with weakness, uncertainty, or a lack of confidence. They assume that those who remain quiet do so because they have nothing to say. But this is far from the truth. Silence, when mastered, is one of the most powerful tools a person can possess. It is a sign of control, of discipline, and of deep understanding. Those who can remain silent in a world that constantly demands noise are often the ones who hold the most power. In today's world, people talk endlessly. They express opinions, argue, seek validation, and attempt to prove their worth through words. Social media has amplified this tendency, making it easier than ever for people to share every thought that crosses their mind. But very few people stop to ask themselves, does speaking actually serve me? Does constantly expressing my thoughts make me stronger, or does it dilute my influence? More often than not, the answer is the latter. Speaking too much diminishes the weight of your words. The more you talk, the less people listen. The more you reveal, the more vulnerable you become. Silence, on the other hand, forces people to pay attention when you do decide to speak. Those who talk sparingly, who choose their words carefully, command more respect than those who speak without restraint. When a person who is known for their silence finally speaks, their words carry significance. They have taken the time to think, to observe, to understand. And when they finally voice their thoughts, they do so with authority. Mastering silence also means mastering observation. When you remain silent, you listen more. You see things that others miss. You notice patterns in behavior, weaknesses in arguments, and the true intentions of those around you. Silence allows you to analyze situations before reacting, to gather knowledge before forming an opinion, and to act with precision rather than impulse. Many conflicts, misunderstandings, and mistakes stem from speaking too soon, from reacting before fully understanding the situation. But when you develop the habit of remaining silent and watching, you gain an advantage. You make fewer mistakes. You position yourself strategically. Beyond that, silence is a form of strength. Many people feel uncomfortable with it. They rush to fill the void with words because they fear the weight of quiet. But those who can sit in silence, who do not feel the need to constantly speak, demonstrate a level of inner stability that few possess. They are not seeking approval. They do not need to be heard to feel important. Their presence alone is enough. There is also a tactical element to silence. When you withhold your thoughts, you become unpredictable. People cannot manipulate you if they do not know what you are thinking. They cannot use your words against you if you have not given them any to use. Many people sabotage themselves simply by talking too much, by revealing their plans too early, by voicing emotions that could have been managed privately, or by giving away their thoughts to those who do not deserve to hear them. Silence protects you. It keeps your intentions hidden until you are ready to act. Silence is also a tool for self-discipline. It requires restraint, patience, and control. It teaches you to resist the urge to react emotionally, to pause before speaking, and to ensure that when you do communicate, it is with purpose. This discipline extends beyond speech. It influences the way you carry yourself, the way you handle challenges, and the way you approach life. A person who has mastered silence does not waste energy on unnecessary words, just as they do not waste effort on meaningless actions. Moreover, silence is a gateway to deeper thinking. Constant talking and external noise leave little room for introspection, but when you embrace silence, you create space for self-reflection. You gain clarity. You sharpen your thoughts, and you develop a level of self-awareness that cannot be achieved through endless conversation. Some of the greatest minds in history spent long periods in silence, not because they had nothing to say, but because they understood that wisdom comes from reflection, not from constant expression. When you learn to master silence, you become a person of depth, of thoughtfulness, and of influence. You speak only when necessary, and when you do, people listen. You observe before you act. ensuring that every move you make is calculated. You develop the ability to navigate the world with patience and precision rather than impulse and noise. So, embrace silence, use it to build strength, to sharpen your mind, and to protect your energy. Speak only when your words serve a purpose, and in doing so, you will find that you hold far more power than those who have not yet learned the value of keeping quiet. A life spent chasing comfort is a life spent avoiding growth. Comfort is easy, seductive, and immediately gratifying, but it does not build strength. It does not lead to fulfillment. It does not create purpose. Those who seek only comfort will find themselves weak, directionless, and unsatisfied. Meaning, on the other hand, is difficult. It requires effort, sacrifice, and responsibility. But in exchange, it offers something far greater than comfort ever could. A deep sense of purpose, resilience, and the knowledge that your existence matters. Many people structure their lives around avoiding discomfort. They choose the easy job, the convenient relationships, the path of least resistance. They numb themselves with distractions, entertainment, and pleasure, thinking that if they just keep themselves entertained long enough, they will be happy. But happiness is not the absence of struggle. It is the result of overcoming struggle in the pursuit of something worthwhile. When life is too easy, it becomes meaningless. Without challenges, there is no growth. Without sacrifice, there is no reward. A life without difficulty is not a life at all. It is stagnation. True fulfillment comes from meaning, not from pleasure. Meaning is found in responsibility, in striving towards something greater than yourself, in willingly carrying the burdens of life rather than running from them. The most meaningful experiences, raising a family, building a career, creating something valuable, mastering a skill, all require sacrifice. They demand that you endure hardship, push through discomfort, and resist the temptation to take the easy way out. But in the end, they give you something far greater than temporary pleasure, a deep sense of purpose and a reason to keep going. Meaning is not given, it is earned. It is something you create through your actions and choices. It requires you to step outside of your comfort zone, to do the hard things, to embrace struggle rather than avoid it. This is why people who take on responsibility, who commit to something bigger than themselves, are often the ones who feel most fulfilled. They do not waste their lives chasing fleeting pleasures. They build something lasting. They grow into people of substance, people who can endure suffering without collapsing, people who can look back on their lives with pride rather than regret. The pursuit of comfort, on the other hand, leads to weakness. When you prioritize comfort over meaning, you become dependent on ease. You lose the ability to handle adversity. The smallest inconvenience becomes overwhelming. You seek constant distraction because reality itself becomes unbearable. You shrink from challenge, avoiding anything that requires effort or risk. And as a result, you remain stagnant, unfulfilled, and deeply dissatisfied. Meaning is what sustains you when life becomes difficult. Comfort is unreliable. It disappears the moment hardship arrives. But if you have built your life around meaning, if you have committed to something truly worthwhile, you will have the strength to endure suffering without losing your way. You will know why you are struggling, and that knowledge will give you the resilience to keep moving forward. This is not to say that comfort is always bad. Rest is necessary. Pleasure has its place, but they must never be your primary aim. They must never take precedence over meaning. The key is to endure discomfort willingly in pursuit of something greater, to wake up early when you would rather sleep in, to work when you would rather relax, to take on responsibility when you would rather avoid it, because in doing so, you build the kind of character that can withstand anything. At the end of your life, you will not remember the times you were most comfortable. You will remember the times you overcame, the times you pushed through hardship, the times you chose to do what was right rather than what was easy. That is what will define you. That is what will give your life meaning. So, do not seek comfort, seek purpose. Do not chase what is easy, chase what is meaningful. Because in the end, it is meaning, not comfort, that makes life worth living. Suffering is inevitable. It is woven into the fabric of life, unavoidable and relentless. No one escapes pain, hardship, or struggle. But there is a choice in how you face it. You can resist suffering, complain about it, and allow it to weaken you, or you can embrace it, willingly endure it, and use it as a tool to grow stronger. Voluntary suffering, the act of choosing difficulty, discomfort, and challenge, is one of the most powerful ways to build resilience, discipline, and mental fortitude. Most people avoid suffering at all costs. They seek pleasure, ease, and comfort, believing that happiness comes from eliminating hardship. But this is an illusion. Comfort makes you weak. The more you shield yourself from difficulty, the less capable you become of handling life's inevitable struggles. When real suffering arrives, when loss, failure, or adversity strike, those who have lived only in comfort find themselves unprepared, fragile, and overwhelmed. They lack the strength to endure because they have never trained themselves to suffer willingly. Voluntary suffering is different. It is the conscious decision to endure discomfort for the sake of growth. It is choosing to push your body beyond its limits, to wake up early when you would rather sleep, to work harder when you feel like quitting. It is the discipline of rejecting the easy path in favor of the difficult one, not because you have to, but because doing so forges strength. Physical training is one of the most obvious examples. Lifting weights, running long distances, enduring physical strain. All of these things are forms of voluntary suffering. They break down muscle fibers, forcing them to rebuild stronger. Without resistance, there is no growth. If you never push your body beyond what is comfortable, it will remain weak. But the same principle applies to the mind. When you avoid difficult conversations, uncomfortable truths, or emotionally challenging situations, your mind remains untested, fragile, and easily overwhelmed. But when you willingly face discomfort, when you lean into difficulty rather than retreat from it, your mind becomes stronger. Hardship creates character. Those who have suffered and endured are the ones who possess true resilience. They have faced difficulty, confronted their weaknesses, and emerged stronger. They have learned that pain is not something to be feared, but something to be harnessed. They understand that suffering is the price of strength, that there is no growth without struggle, no wisdom without hardship. There is a reason that the most respected people in history, those who have achieved greatness, who have inspired others, who have left a lasting impact, are the ones who willingly endured suffering. They did not seek comfort. They sought challenge. They took on responsibility when others turned away. They chose to bear burdens heavier than their own. And in doing so, they transformed themselves into people capable of withstanding anything. Voluntary suffering teaches you that you are capable of more than you think. When you endure hardship by choice, you expand your limits. You prove to yourself that you can survive discomfort, that you are not as weak as you once believed. This realization builds confidence, not the false confidence of empty words, but the real confidence that comes from experience. When you have endured suffering and emerged stronger, you know deep in your core that you can handle whatever life throws at you. But voluntary suffering is not just about strength, it is also about meaning. A life without challenge, without sacrifice, without struggle is an empty life. There is no fulfillment in ease, no purpose in endless comfort. The things that matter most, building a career, raising a family, mastering a skill, require effort, discipline, and perseverance. They require you to willingly take on burdens, to endure pain for the sake of something greater. And that is what gives life meaning. If you want to be strong, seek out difficulty. If you want to be resilient, train yourself to suffer willingly. Do not wait for hardship to find you. Go out and meet it. face the cold, the exhaustion, the discomfort, not because you have to, but because doing so will make you stronger. And when real suffering comes, as it inevitably will, you will not break. You will stand firm, because you have already proven to yourself that you can endure. Weakness is not just a physical state. It is a mental and emotional condition that leaves you vulnerable to the chaos of life. It manifests as helplessness, anxiety, and a lack of direction. Weak people crumble under pressure, unable to handle adversity or take control of their circumstances. But there is a cure for weakness, and that cure is competence. Competence is the ability to act effectively in the face of challenge. It is the skill, knowledge, and discipline that allow you to navigate the world with confidence. When you are competent, you do not fear difficulty, you rise to meet it. You do not collapse under stress. You adapt and overcome. Competence is not something you are born with. It is something you develop. It requires effort, patience, and the willingness to improve. No one starts out strong. No one begins as an expert. But those who commit to developing their skills, to learning, to pushing themselves beyond their limits, become capable. And capability is what separates the weak from the strong. When you are competent, you are not at the mercy of circumstances. You do not need to rely on others to save you. You can handle problems yourself, and that self-reliance builds resilience. Weakness comes from avoidance. People who fear failure, who refuse to take on challenges, who make excuses instead of improvements, remain weak. They shrink from responsibility because they do not trust themselves to handle it. But this avoidance only makes things worse. The more you avoid difficulty, the less prepared you are to face it. The less you push yourself, the less capable you become. Over time, this leads to a deep sense of helplessness and dependency. And dependency breeds resentment, because when you are unable to take care of yourself, you start to blame the world for your struggles. Competence, on the other hand, breeds confidence. When you develop skills, when you become knowledgeable, when you prove to yourself that you can handle adversity, you build real self-esteem. Not the empty kind that comes from false praise, but the kind that comes from experience, the kind that cannot be taken away because it is earned. When you know that you are competent, you do not need validation from others. You do not need to be protected from hardship. You can stand on your own, and that is what makes you strong. But competence is not just about survival. It is about thriving. The most successful people in any field are those who have mastered their craft. They did not get there by accident. They got there by putting in the time, by practicing, by failing and learning from their failures. They embraced the struggle, knowing that every challenge was an opportunity to improve. And because of that, they became the best at what they do. The world rewards competence. It does not reward excuses, complaints, or mediocrity. Those who develop their skills rise to the top, while those who remain weak are left behind. Developing competence requires discipline. It means doing the hard things, even when you do not feel like it. It means pushing past frustration, enduring failure, and refusing to give up. Many people quit when things become difficult because they expect success to come easily. But nothing worthwhile is easy. Mastery takes time. Strength is built through repeated effort. If you want to be competent, you must be willing to struggle. Competence also requires humility. It means recognizing that you are not as skilled as you could be, that there is always more to learn. Weak people avoid challenges because they fear looking foolish. Strong people embrace challenges because they know that every failure is a lesson. The most competent individuals are not those who pretend to know everything, but those who are constantly seeking to improve. If you want to overcome weakness, become competent. Develop your mind, your body, and your skills. Take on responsibility. Learn everything you can. Train yourself to handle adversity rather than avoid it. The world is tough, but those who are competent do not fear it. They master it. Weakness is not a permanent state. It is a choice. And the antidote to that weakness is competence. Fear is a fundamental part of the human experience. It is hardwired into us, an ancient mechanism designed to keep us safe from harm. But while fear can serve as a warning, it can also become a prison. If left unchecked, fear dictates your choices, limits your potential, and weakens your spirit. It stops you from taking risks, from pursuing opportunities, from speaking your mind, from becoming who you are meant to be. Fear, if avoided, grows stronger. The more you run from it, the more power it has over you. The only way to overcome fear is to confront it. Most people instinctively avoid what they fear. They take the safe path, hoping to minimize discomfort. But this avoidance does not make the fear disappear. It only makes it more dominant. The more you retreat, the more fear shapes your reality. Your world shrinks, your confidence erodes, and your ability to handle adversity diminishes. You become a slave to your anxieties, constantly adjusting your life to avoid the things that make you uncomfortable. But there is another way. Instead of running from fear, you can turn and face it. Confrontation is the key to breaking fear's hold over you. When you deliberately expose yourself to what you fear, something powerful happens. You realize that fear is often exaggerated. The thing you dreaded, when faced head-on, is rarely as terrifying as it seemed in your mind. And even if it is, you find that you are stronger than you thought. You discover that you can endure the discomfort, that you can survive the uncertainty, that you can act in spite of the fear. This is how courage is built. Not by eliminating fear, but by learning to move forward despite it. Fear thrives on ignorance and avoidance. The unknown is often what frightens people the most. But when you face what you fear, you gain knowledge, and knowledge reduces fear's power. Consider the fear of public speaking. Many people avoid it because they imagine humiliation, judgment, or failure. But those who force themselves to speak in front of others, again and again, become less fearful over time. They learn that their worst fears rarely come true. They become skilled, confident, and capable, while those who avoid public speaking remain crippled by anxiety. The same principle applies to all fears, whether it is the fear of failure, rejection, confrontation, or uncertainty. Confronting fear does not mean acting recklessly. It means taking controlled steps toward the thing that frightens you. It means exposing yourself to discomfort in a way that allows you to grow. If you are terrified of social situations, start by speaking to one stranger. If you are afraid of failure, take on small challenges that push you beyond your comfort zone. The more you confront your fears, the more your brain adapts, and what once seemed impossible becomes manageable. Fear often disguises itself as caution, as logic, as reason. It whispers excuses. It's too risky, I'll do it later, I'm not ready yet. But deep down, you know the truth. You know when fear is stopping you from doing something important. You know when it is keeping you from taking action. And if you allow it to dictate your life, you will look back with regret, realizing that fear prevented you from becoming who you could have been. There is a hidden truth about fear that many people never discover. It loses its power the moment you confront it. The act of stepping toward fear weakens its grip. The first time is the hardest. The second time is easier. And after enough repetitions, the fear is gone, replaced by confidence. Those who repeatedly confront fear become unshakable. They are the ones who take risks, who achieve success, who lead, who inspire. They are not fearless. They have simply learned that fear does not control them. If you let fear rule you, you will live a small life. You will avoid challenges, miss opportunities, and settle for less than you are capable of achieving. But if you confront fear, if you face it head on, you will develop courage, resilience, and strength. Fear is not meant to be obeyed. It is meant to be overcome. And the only way to do that is to step forward again and again until fear no longer stands in your way.